Good morning. Welcome to Presence of Light with Charlie Riverman Bergeron. And I'm just going to play my bowls right now. Allow that beautiful resonance to just permeate the space of our gathering here today. And I offer you my peace, my light, and my love. Good morning, Alaya. Welcome, my dear soul sister. For those of you who know Alaya, we've been together for a long time doing talks and shows, and we have a lot in common. And matter of fact, we were chatting before this show on today's topic. And today's topic is hostages of the past, leaders of the future. And I wrote what's in the sideboard there last night after reading an article about letting go of the past and forgiving it and forgiving ourselves. And it struck a very resonant chord within me. And as I speak this morning, you may sense a calmness in me, and yet the morning has been everything but calm. Anything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and it actually started last night when I tried to write because I couldn't write, and I couldn't say, and I did write and I couldn't save it. So we live now in this field of chaos, which is sometimes very overpowering. And what we do naturally is we go into our sort of, I call it our bag of tricks, our past history. And we try to extract from that similar instances that we can compare the moment to in order to better define how we may function in this moment, in this chaos or pain or suffering, whatever it is. And what I realized, not only last night, I've thought about this a long time, and many of you have done this, is we have a past history in this embodiment as our body. And most of our emotional pain comes directly from that. Not so much what we're doing in the moment, but it's the ruminating and the longing for something different, or the wish you had not done something, or you could have said something differently, or you could have been a better father or a mother, or all of these past issues are truly what causes us an amazing amount of grief, and they actually hold us hostage. Now we can look around and talk about, the world holds us hostage. That's minor in comparison to what we do to ourselves. And so the other day I had lunch with a friend, and, we're both older, both retired. And we got into this discussion about how our lifetimes have been of service to others and ourselves, but we were always sort of trapped or held hostage by somebody else's constructs and thought forms. Because we worked for others, as well as for ourselves at times, but we worked for others, and we had to follow their rules and their guidelines, and we made mistakes. And so too, we made mistakes in raising our families. And it was really a wonderful talk, because we went from there into quantum science and metaphysical involvement, the theory of God. It was a wonderful conversation. But I came away with that realizing how, as we're in this moment and shifting and changing into this future, we have to let that go. And the best way to do that is to start to forgive ourselves. Our imperfection is not random. Our imperfection is part of who we are. And that imperfection is really a teacher. And if we start to look at it as a wisdom keeper and a teacher, as to where we are now, we can look back and say, I'm not going to do this that way. Rather than going back and saying, how am I going to deal with this? And how did I deal with it? We can look and say, that was incorrect. That was an incorrect way to deal with things. And in that moment, we're triggered. We're going to come up with, grief is going to rise in us, because we're going to start saying, oh, I was a failure. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't be here. Yada, yada, yada. We go through this. This is our human nature. This is the nature of the mind. Forgive it. Drop into your heart and learn to forgive that person you were at that moment, who made that either incorrect decision or non-decision. And tell that person how much you love them and embrace them as a child of yourself. And say, it's okay. Let me hold you. It's okay. You made a choice. You made a choice, and it was wrong. And a lot of things, maybe good or bad, came out of that. But what's important is you're here now, and you are part of me, and I am part of you. And we're not going to separate. We're going to move together into the future. And by doing this and thinking in these terms, that part of yourself that continually bites you in the ass and tells you you're no good and tells you you can't do this, you're not smart enough, you're not skilled enough, this is crazy, you're a crazy person, stop talking like this, will eventually surrender and say, you know what? It feels good to be loved again. And eventually it will just dissipate. You don't have to take my word for this, because I've seen it happen within myself. Although until last night, I didn't recognize it. I didn't recognize how often it happens, and how today I'm not bothered by so many of the things that I used to hold myself accountable for in the past. I still bring up the fact that I was a high school throwout. I didn't quit high school. They threw me out because I didn't show up. And I've beat myself to death over that for 70 years or 60 years or whatever, how old I am. 69 years old, well, 16, so that's 53 years I've been beating myself up over this. And finally I said, Charlie, you know what? I love you. You are a real crazy, rebellious kid because you knew too much. You saw too much. You felt the pain and you couldn't take it. And you didn't know how to deal with it, nor did anyone else around you. And so you acted out of frustration, out of pain, out of suffering. And many times, that's what we're continuing today, is to beat ourselves up over things that were done years and years ago. I'm not even going to go into past lifetimes, just this one incarnation. And believe me, when you start to forgive yourself, you begin to take a new breath. And you release yourself from being the hostage, because it isn't anybody else that's holding us hostage except ourselves. I can't see the comments in the side column, so I don't know who's with me or who's not. But I bless you all today on this journey. And this is why I'm glad it came up. I posted what I wrote in the sidebar so you can read it. And the interesting part of this whole thing is we're all moving into the future. Last night, I was informed that a friend of mine from years ago, who I hadn't seen in quite a while, passed away, had crossed over. And it hit me very strongly in my heart to say to myself, I could have done more. I should have done more. And I had to, again, come to that place of forgiveness and say, no, our relationship was perfect. Each one of us came together for a short period of time. We both enriched and enhanced each other's lives. And then we pulled away, and we always kept each other in each other's hearts and minds. We just did not connect. And it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to beat ourselves up. I released her and blessed her, and I know she's with me right now as I speak. And Cindy, you are, where's my card? You are that shining star. You are that shining star, Cindy. And you always have been. Again, forgiving ourselves. Forgiving ourselves for the words we didn't say. Forgiving ourselves for the words we did say. Forgiving ourselves for all the little things. And freeing ourselves to be who we are in the moment, without all of these chains and baggage and locked doors. And so forgiveness of self is the key. It's really a key to the future. And it's really a key to the future of all humanity. I'm turning pages, but I'm not even reading them. I love when I do this. Anyway, I probably may not even follow what I wrote. Talking from my heart. And so the message today is really about, we've been hostages of the past for too long, and we need to emancipate ourselves. We need to declare a day of release and freedom. And whether you do it today or tomorrow or next week, whenever it is you decide to do it, think about this and think about how many different ways you beat yourself up. And you create more damage to yourself than everybody else does. When we look out into the larger picture of the world, what do we see? We see this is playing out. Every one of our leaders is doing the same thing. They're not forgiving themselves. They're not changing. They're not doing anything. They're doing the same stuff they've always done because they're fearful. They are afraid to truly be who they really are. And so they keep playing the old record over and over again, thinking in their own sort of psychotic sense that it's better. And it's not any better than it was the first time you played the record. The difference is now the groove is worn. For those of you who remember records, the groove is worn, and there's a lot more distortion and distress. And so we are now becoming the leaders of the future, each and every one of us. And this is an important stage in our evolution, is to stand up and become those leaders. So what does that mean? I've never wanted to be a leader. Not that I was a follower, although I would say I've been a follower more than a leader. Because to me, a leader was always the guy that was in the front of the line, and he's going to get shot first. Isn't that nice thought? That's the patriarchal mindset. The warlike, the warrior, you know. And you wonder why we are where we are? This is exactly what got us here. Instead of saying, what is a leader? Asking that question, what is a true leader? And when you look at the true leaders of the world, who comes to mind? Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi. You know, these are people who stood in their truth. Even when everybody was against them and everybody was threatening them with their lives. And saying, I'm going to stand in my truth. This comes from my heart. This is what I feel in my heart. And if I die, and if you kill me because I've stood for what I am in my heart, then I've lived a noble life. And I've served my purpose to the fullest. And so this is what we all have to do, is come to that place within ourselves, within our soul, our source of unconditional love, within our hearts, to start to recognize, what are my gifts? What have I presented in my lifetime that have not only made me feel empowered and creative, but has also assisted others in becoming more empowered and creative. And when we start to do that, we change what's called the field of heart resonance, our heart resonance. And as our heart resonance changes, it immediately changes the heart resonance of everybody around us. Those who are fearful usually, might, or they might, I'm not going to say usually, but they might attack us because it's very uncomfortable for them to be in that space. And as we kind of move around we've looked at Facebook and we see how that's panned out. We knew not to trust Facebook. This is not a no-brainer. I mean, this is, you knew they were gathering information on you. We all knew this. It's not a secret. We know that the governments all gather information on us. It's not a secret. We know that they're taking that information and they're going to use it in ways that are going to be their advantage and not ours. Shame on them, not on us. And so this brings us to groups, and how many people are now seeking to find groups, safe groups, that they can work in and enjoy similar aspects of themselves and feel comfortable. And for most of the groups that I've been in over the past couple of years, I find that they work in the beginning and then they slowly degrade because most of the people in them haven't forgiven themselves. And so when we get into that field of heart resonance, there's always something that's going to trigger somebody and they're going to react rather than act anew and act from their heart resonance. They're going to go back into their history, their head, and they're going to remember something, and that hostage self will say, attack. And this is what happens. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And I'm not demeaning anybody or any group. But this is why groups over time fail and the people dissipate, and they'll go find another group, and it'll be okay for a while, and then it'll dissipate. And this is a pattern that you'll see, and many of you have been through. It's all because we haven't truly forgiven ourselves. And so there will always be somebody in that resonant field when we're vulnerable that will bring something up, and we will feel attacked. And what do we do in that? If we are truly in our heart resonance, we will sit still with that and embrace it and use it as a teaching tool for us to learn something about ourselves which we can forgive. Or we can go into defense mode. And what do you see in the world today? The larger picture is everybody's in defense. Everybody wants to attack. If you misspell a word on a page, you've got somebody who's going to attack you just because you can't type. Or they're going to attack you because of the particular word you used. Or they're going to attack you for whatever reason. Just because you're there writing something. You could just type letters and not even make sense. It doesn't matter. Everybody is on the edge, wants to attack. So we're all looking out there. And until we all start looking within us and realize that this is our stuff, and if we're going to be leaders of the future, we cannot lead by repeating the same old patterns. We have to have a new paradigm. We have to have a new shift in conscious awareness. We have to drop into our hearts at a deeper level and be willing to forgive ourselves. And then as we forgive ourselves, we automatically forgive the others because they've done the same thing we have. Instead of looking at, they're doing this and I've never done that. Well, I bet you have. I'll bet you have. You just don't want to own it or do anything about it. And that's okay. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can continue on your path. And I don't know where that's going to end up, but that's your choice. We're free will. We're sovereign beings. And it's time we started to act like that. Started to resonate in that field and bring that field to life. And so it's not easy by any means. And as I wrote, and I always say we're created in the image of God. What is that image? And we have to search and say, what is that image? That image is an all-knowing, sentient being of some sort. Maybe not a form. We're in form, but there may be no form to God. We don't know. Or we do know. And if you do know, then own it. Because this is what you're created in the image of. And how separate you decided to be and act is your choice. This isn't God's choice. God didn't do this to you. You did this to you. Let's quit blaming God. Let's quit blaming this, that, the other thing, and let's start pointing all the fingers back at us and say, wow, why did I do that? Why did I make that choice? Trauma, abuse, lack of intelligence, whatever. And then forgive yourself. I apologize to me for carrying this with me when I didn't need to. Yes, this deep pain, this pain of abuse or child abuse or physical abuse or sexual abuse or just patriarchal patronizing. It's painful. And we've all been through it. There's nobody who escapes it. It's what we do after that that's important, and what's important now. And for us to be the leaders of the future, we have to continually look within ourselves and remove all of these obstacles. Because the energy is building, and you've all felt it. It's being supercharged. It's knocking the living daylights out of us physically, energetically, emotion. You know, our energy is just crazy. But we're going to make it. Because we were created in the image of God. And God makes it through everything because God makes it all. So I use the term God. You can look at it in any way you want. If that offends you, so be it. Take a look at that. That's your stuff, not mine. I remember in the Course in Miracles 20 years ago when it's written in the masculine from Jesus, as the teachings from Jesus, who was a male embodiment, and how many people got rattled by that and would argue and fight. And I mean, it was so disruptive to many classes, and probably still is. I don't know. But I look and I just say, wow, this is how stuck we are in these fields of illusion that we've created in order to justify our own insanity. So I look at the world as going through a dis-ease, and I call it a dis-ease of the mind. And the only way to heal it is not with drugs, it's not with radiation, it's not with all of these things, although there are tools, sound, vibration, and a lot of the holistic things can help ease the distortion in the mind, in the brain. But it's each one of us coming to a place of forgiveness. And it isn't about me forgiving you. It isn't about me forgiving a president. It isn't about me, because we can't undo what they've done or what they're doing. That's not going to undo it. What's going to undo it is by taking that information and learning from that and saying, this is not the way to behave. Just as you would a small child who is acting out and screaming and doing a temper tantrum. No, no, I love you. But no, this is not the way to have a happy future life, to have an abundant future life, to have a sustainable future life. So I implore each of you, I've got 3 minutes left here, I implore each of you to take some time to sit wherever you feel a real connection and safety with yourself and environment, and allow a lot of the stuff to come up that has been your past and your past choices, and to learn to forgive yourself for them. I have a daughter who has not spoken to me in 30 years or whatever. I don't even know how old she is anymore. Okay? And she was the rising sun in my life. And Shannon, if you're out there and you hear this, I love you. And one day I hope you will forgive yourself enough for choosing not to talk to me. Because I would certainly love to talk to you, because I've forgiven myself. And so this is where we're at. Each one of us carry these deep-seated traumas. And it doesn't matter who, what, or when. But we need to forgive ourselves first in order to make anything happen. And so with that, there was a thing I read. I just picked up the book here. And it was from a book of Israel, and it's White Brother Teachings of the Great Brotherhood. And I think this book was written back in, well, this is the sixth printing in 1972, so you know how old it is. And so this awakening process we've been going through is a long journey. And it says, I speak to you thus, my beloved, because humanity is now on the eve of a new age, during which great knowledge and great power shall be revealed. If there is no balancing of the spiritual light which your Father has planted in the Garden of Eden, the garden of life into which man has been born, destruction may come through man's own choice. Believe me, this is just a random opening of the page. You have been placed on this planet, my beloved, with great opportunities to unfold your spiritual qualities and knowledge. Not in some far-off heaven world, but here upon the earth. It is necessary to balance your material and spiritual life so that the light of the Spirit can manifest through physical life also. My brothers and sisters, leaders of the future, let us unite in the heart, bless each other, forgive ourselves, and co-create what is truly ours, to be present as one heart resonance. And with that, I'm complete, and I love you, I thank you, and I respect you. I respect the water in you. I respect the blood in you. I respect every aspect of your beingness. And please carry some of these messages in your heart. And if you struggle with some of the concepts or ideas, that's okay. It's okay. Just know that in time, all of this will heal us all. Thank you for listening to me. I didn't get to read the thing, but you can read it on the sideline, and I bless you, and you can catch me on Facebook or my blog or YouTube. I'm starting to do some live YouTube things. Whatever you're doing, have a good day. Bye-bye.